Think about the last time you were in bumper-to-bumper traffic. You were frustrated, you were late, and you were stuck. How much is your patience worth to you? How much is your time worth? Would you have paid to get out of it? That's where congestion pricing comes in, charging drivers to use certain roads or enter busy areas during peak periods. And some traffic experts say that's part of the suite of solutions Toronto needs to implement in order to fix the congestion problem.
In my opinion, it's inevitable because number one, demand keeps increasing, populations increase, urbanization increases, economic activities we hope would continue to flourish and increase, but space for building infrastructure does not increase.
This is the third and final part of our series exploring how to fix Toronto's notoriously bad traffic. So far, we learned the solution is many solutions. The main ones, more and better transit, additional technology like automated enforcement and artificial intelligence, improved construction management, and private sector support with incentives like subsidized TTC passes. Those are all being addressed to some extent by the city, province, or big businesses, but some experts say without congestion pricing, we won't fully solve the problem. And without an actual fix, they say our economy and quality of life is at risk. So why would people be so resistant to congestion charges, aside from the fact that it would cost them more money? We spoke to a psychologist for those answers.
If you really want to change a person's behavior, it's better to reward them for making the change than penalizing them for not making it.
Do you think that congestion pricing could be viewed as a punishment by some people?
Absolutely. There are people that can't drive at a different time. So if they now have to pay extra to get somewhere, it's going to be viewed as some sort of penalty that they can't escape. So rather than making them want to change their behavior, they're probably just going to be pissed off.
We're paying for the congestion already. They're paying for it in their time, they're paying for it in frustration, and they're paying for it because all of the goods and services that we all consume cost more here because of how long it's taking to get around and for those goods to be delivered.
Congestion charges have worked in other big cities like Stockholm, Singapore, and London, and New York City just implemented it this month. Now it costs $9 for most cars to enter Manhattan during peak hours. In London, congestion pricing was implemented more than 2 decades ago,
for what some are calling the biggest urban experiment ever.
And it was met with a lot of controversy. The mayor who brought it in, Ken Livingston, bore the brunt. We tracked down his senior advisor on transportation at the time. Was there a conversation like, listen, if you bring this in, you're not going to get reelected again?
Constantly, yes. And for a large part of the period when we were introducing the congestion charge, the opinion polls backed up that opinion. The week before the congestion price came in, more people were opposed to it than were supported it. 2 weeks after it had been introduced, massively flipped. 2/3 of people thought it was a good idea.
So how did you change that mindset?
And frankly, it worked.
Traffic's been wonderful. A lot better.
What it achieved in and of itself, the congestion charge, it cut congestion in the centre of the city by 30%. It made it possible to have, in the space of a few years, a nearly 40% increase in bus passengers. But it raised money on the polluter pays basis. I think now the revenues are about £300 million a year. What the mayor who introduced it, Ken Livingston, did, he said that every single penny of that money that's raised from car drivers has to be used to invest in public transport, cycling and walking.
The mayor was reelected. You're doing quite well. Everyone still here. What's your message to people that are just so opposed to it?
I'd say don't be afraid of it. This is a policy that's worked incredibly successfully in many cities around the world. I've seen everybody try the other things. They don't work. The only thing, once your city has got to a certain level of congestion, that can stop people who don't need to be driving from driving is to price it so that the alternatives become more attractive.
But that's one fundamental difference between Toronto and those other cities. Our public transportation system just doesn't compare. Experts say we need a more reliable, efficient, and comprehensive transit system before we could implement any sort of a congestion charge.
Very hard to charge people to drive their cars if they don't have an option. I would argue you probably won't be able to do it at least until the Ontario line is built. It's a great potential solution, but it's not for now. We think it's something that should be starting to be worked on, but let's do the other 8 or 9 things first and see what we can do to alleviate the congestion problem. And then when the time is ripe, absolutely should be an arrow in the quiver.
Toronto City Council considered a congestion charge in 2023, but it didn't move forward and now it's off the table. In any regard, it would have to be approved by the province, so we asked the Ministry of Transportation and it was a hard no.
We're fighting this battle with at least one hand tied behind our back, because we won't we missed a generation of transit investment, and we won't even have a discussion about road tolls.
So with congestion pricing off the table, Toronto will have to rely on some of the other solutions we've explored in our series, like the city implementing a levy charged to companies doing construction work that takes up space on our roads, and cameras to catch drivers blocking intersections, then tickets would get mailed out. That wouldn't start until sometime next year at the very earliest. And with traffic reportedly costing the Greater Toronto-Hamilton area nearly $45 billion a year in economic, social, and health costs, there's an urgent need to fix traffic here in Toronto.